and then they're adding it to the cart and going. They're piecing out. What they might be doing is confirming what the AI told them. Yes, this product is available. Yes, it's on sale. Yes, it's this price. Okay, I will make my purchase or not, because they're impatient. All they're doing is validating what they had already.
It's like in a good crime novel, you're looking for what the person didn't do. And that's what gives you the clue.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
But, or they treat SEO as like gaming algorithms. But what if all of this is just actually converging around clarity and usability and understanding? And what if optimizing for machines increasingly just means optimizing for humans? Vibe coding as an end product is really, really dangerous, both for risk and privacy and quality. So I urge everyone to not run an A/B test that you vibe coded. Please don't do that.
Welcome to Knowledge Distillation, where we explore the rise of the AI analyst. I'm your host, Katrin Ribant, CEO and founder of AskWhy. This is episode 17, and we're continuing our exploration of how agentic commerce is reshaping the world of digital practitioners, this time turning the lens on the experimentation discipline. And who better than Kelly Wortham to help us with this? Kelly, you've spent 25 years. I'm aging you, I'm sorry, but it's true. You did spend 25 years building experimentation programs from the inside. Trained probably hundreds, thousands of practitioners because you're a coach as well. And you're also founded and run Forward Digital and the Test and Learn community, where probably about a couple of thousand experimentation practitioners are trading notes every day at this point. And obviously you curate the wonderful Experimentation Island conference, which is the best conference I have been to in so long. It was amazing. And I am so thrilled that you're doing 2 a year next year. I'm really excited because I'm now 2 months out of Experimentation Island. I'm like, I could do another one of these. So 2 a year is going to be great. So, to kick us off, Kelly, could you please tell us why you got interested in agentic commerce?
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Let's talk a little bit about this. So I actually came into the experimentation industry from academia. So at my core, I am a teacher. But honestly, I probably love learning even more. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you don't know a subject until you can teach it. So what is, it's probably why I created the Test and Learn community in the first place. You want to surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, so that you can learn as much as you can from those folks. And so, 12 years ago, went out and, said, hey, all you smart people, let's create this community, and we gather and we have this, amazing Slack community, and we get to learn from each other. And so the TLC was never about being the expert in the room. It's about creating a space where we could all learn from each other. So when I started seeing all these conversations around AI and GEO and agentic commerce and AI mediated discovery, my first reaction, honestly, wasn't fear or hype. Like I've been hearing all these other and reading all this other stuff. It was curiosity. And I've really found it fascinating. And I wanted to research as much as I could. I wanted to learn because that's what I do. That's part of teaching. It's just part of the process. So I knew absolutely nothing in the beginning. This is not my field of expertise, nowhere near it. I'm
Oh,
not in it.
the good thing is nobody knew anything
Nobody
because it
did.
didn't exist. So cool.
Right, right. And so that's why I started if anybody has seen any of it, I started this blog series called Mapping GEO. I just started interviewing anybody in the industry who did know something. So some SEO experts, AI folks, technical practitioners. Um, and I just basically went into this full research mode. And the more conversations I had, the more fascinated I became. And the more I realized that, unlike some of these other big shifts that we've had, like GDPR, GA4, like all of those shifts were kind of like a little slower. They were dramatic, but this time is different because it's like customer behavior shift, um, and it's really fast. Um, and then I started looking at data that different people were sharing, and I started realizing that now people are arriving further down the funnel. They're arriving already having more information. They're already making up their minds. And I realized, oh shit, we maybe aren't measuring the right things. We're maybe not ready and we're maybe underreacting. And so
And
that's
it,
when I
it
realized we needed
it's
to
interesting because like when you talk about the behavioral shift, my theory is that this is sort of like a mix between the mobile replatforming because it really is a different customer behavior, right?
mhm,
Um, that somewhat of the rise of Amazon because there is a loss of disintermediation of the brand and the customer in terms of relationship management. There is a sort of like breakdown there from the relationship of the brand with the customer, and some of the GA4 replatforming because it affects measurement, in a really, really, really strong way. And I'm thinking that we are just like on the cusp of an enormous sort of work stream on the part of marketers to decide how they're going to restructure their websites. And there's many theories out there, right, of how you should do it. Should you, some of the people I've had on the podcast were like, built for humans and bots will figure it out. Other people are like, no, you'll end up with two websites, a website for humans, a website for bots. So there's really a lot of different ways of looking at it. And that's kind of just step one, because you also then have to figure out, okay, how do we evolve the measurement in the data layer as we capture what we capture, and also in the KPIs, what we measure, right? And so we kind of really have to think about how we're doing that. And that's very much of an open question.
yep,
And then there is a specific sort of targeting to be done to this non-human audience that is very, very different, I imagine, than what you would do for humans. So I think that's going to be a major theme of, work and projects to be done. And I kind of don't really see it yet. And I'm thinking, am I overreacting? Is the market underreacting? I'm
I,
not sure. What do you think?
No, 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 no. I think the market is underreacting personally. Well, I think there's a mix. I think there's people that are panicking and there's people that are underreacting. But I think today we do not have a clean way. Most companies do not have a clean way to effectively measure AI referred traffic versus non AI referred traffic, and it's all being blended together in a really messy way. And on the experimentation side, this is a real problem because we already had noisy data. This was always a problem. We were always sample size is and power analysis has always been an important part of experimentation. And you know, the data needs to be really clean in experimentation in a way that it doesn't matter as much with your marketing analytics and your product.
Can you explain that? Can you explain why for people who are not experimentation specialists?
Yeah.
Like why is that?
Yeah. So when you're talking about statistical analysis versus just looking at how well your the performance of your website or your marketing campaign does, you can sample data when you're talking about the performance of your website or the performance of your marketing campaign. When you're talking about a statistical test, if you're looking at sampled data, then you have issues because the sampled data has to be the same with A and B. And that's statistically impossible unless your sample is very, 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 very large. And you have to have you have to have increasingly large sample sizes, which increases your runtime to the point of making your test ridiculous to run. So
Mhm.
what we do is we say, okay, we want a complete sample or a full population, and then we don't sample our data. That's why when GA4 came out and they had sampled data, everybody said, "Oh, well, we can't test with GA4 data because they were running with sampled data." So you don't want incomplete data. You don't want sampled data. You want accurate data. So the noisier the data is, then the greater you introduce risk that your maybe for example your control versus your treatment, maybe one of them is inaccurate sampled, and then the other one has the full sample and then they're incomplete, and then you can't accurately measure. It's like you can kind of think of scales and weights, and one of them, it's like putting your fingers on the scales a little bit, if that
Mhm.
makes, trying to dumb
Yes,
it.
it totally does. So how does the presence of agents play into this?
So the best way that I can think to, we use the analogy in our and when we were talking back and forth ahead of time, is if we think of like Jarvis as our AI agent before anybody comes to your website, and somebody's shopping, and they're using it, Chat GPT or Perplexity or whatever, or Gemini, and they're comparison shopping, and they're, maybe they're trying to pick running shoes or whatever, and they haven't come to your website yet. They're comparison shopping between you and a competitor. And at the end of the day, they've already made their pretty sure they've made their decision before they get to your website. Then they get to your website and they're just coming to confirm what they already learned from Gemini, for example. When they get to the website, if they get to the website, only number one, only the survivors have made it, which is an important consideration. You're running a B test on the product that they happen to have been doing their research on,
I see.
right? Now you're running this A B test, and maybe you're running an A B test that is on persuasion. They've already been persuaded. That persuasion A B test is going to be less effective for the people who came through from that AI referral than the people who didn't get there from AI referral. The
Mhm.
people who came there through direct or through some other channel, they need the persuasion that your A B test provided, right? Because they haven't been persuaded yet. But it's going to be um, watered down because the percentage of people who got to your website from AI referral is higher today than it used to be.
Mhm.
So you're not going to see as much of a lift from your persuasion test than you used to because more people are getting there through AI referrals than they used to. But most people don't have a way to split out AI referred traffic from non AI referred traffic. So you've got noise in your data and you're going to see neutral results when in fact, if you could say, these are the AI referred traffics, this is the non AI referred traffic, and I only want to see the results of a persuasion test for non AI referred traffic because that makes sense. And
Yes, I see. And so when you say, obviously you talk to a lot of different people who do experimentation, right? And when you say most people don't have a way to separate AI referred traffic from non-AI referred
clean,
traffic,
they're
do you
aggregated
know
together.
do
Yeah.
you know any people who have some
I know
workable
people
way,
who
who
are
have figured something out? Sorry?
I know people who are claiming they do. Yes.
And do you have any idea how they do that?
Not
Share the secret.
yeah. I would love for people to share that secret real cleanly. I know people that are claiming they have, but I don't think anybody is doing it cleanly. Um, and I think the problem is that there are people who can do pieces of it, but it's not all clean. And having said that, if you asked me, I think one of the questions you sent over ahead of time is what should people start doing right away in the next quarter? Um,
I was
and
just gonna ask that.
yeah, yeah, and my answer is start doing that. I don't care if it's not clean. You still need to do it. Um,
But
so
do what?
start creating a segment of AI referred traffic, however unclean it is.
Mhm,
Okay if it's unclean. Because we all recognize that it's going to be messy in the beginning. It's kind of like when we all just recognized that mobile first was important.
mhm.
And boy, did it look gross in the
Oh,
beginning.
yes, it did. Oh,
Oh,
yes,
it
it
was
did.
terrible, right? But
It
we
was funny, actually.
start somewhere,
It was funny.
right?
It was so bad.
It's so bad. But if you don't start, you won't get there. And it's the same
And
with
s
accessibility. We
and so
access
what you're
first
saying, sorry,
to
what
start.
what you're saying basically is, like, which with whatever you have today, start creating a baseline
AI
and
ref
monitor your baseline,
yes,
and that will give you some information, which is better than no information.
yes.
And if you see growth in that, you can assume that you are underestimating the growth because you're not measuring correctly anyway.
Yeah, and to me, it's less about measuring your baseline than it is about recognizing the segment, in your experiments, because 'cause I'm an experimenter. So I want experimenters, product owners, and product managers that are running tests, marketers that are running tests, whoever's running your experiments, I want you to run experiments and look at the segment of people that came from AI referrers. And I want you to run tests targeted to AI referred traffic. And I want you to run experiments targeted to people who did not come. You should have entire experiments targeted to people who came from AI referred traffic because they are behaving differently. We have a lot of data now that shows that people who came from AI referred come in with further down the funnel. So we should be targeting different experiments to those people. And a lot of people are like, oh, so we just
And
change
how
our
does that
website. Yeah, go ahead. How does that?
how does that manifest when how does that manifest when you say they behave differently? Like, how I understand they come, like, they come persuaded and come further down the tunnel, but how does that actually manifest in terms of behavior? They start they browse quicker through product pages. They like, what do you see?
Yeah. So if I come in already convinced then there are things that I don't do. So, for example, if I'm coming as a browser, as a researcher, then I'm going to look at more product pages. I'm going to go in through search. I'm going to go into FAQ. I'm going to do a lot more research than somebody who often will just add an item that I've already decided to my cart and make a purchase. It's a totally different experience from somebody who's already made a decision. The purchase path of somebody, or the number of pages seen of somebody who is an AI referred person, the time on site is shorter, the number of pages seen, the what I would do as an experimenter is look at the number of pages seen and the number of products added to cart. What we're typically seeing is they land on the site. They often go directly to a product. They might compare two products on the site, and then they're adding it to the cart and going. They're piecing out. What they might be doing is confirming what the AI told them. Yes, this product is available. Yes, it's on sale. Yes, it's this price. Okay, I will make my purchase or not, because they're impatient. All they're doing is
It's like in
validating
a
what they
good
had already
crime
known.
it's like in a good crime novel, you're looking for what the person didn't do, and that's
Yeah,
what gives you the clue.
yeah,
I see what you mean.
yeah,
So, so that makes total sense. And the other thing, kind of like, I'm curious about is you have this like how to win hypothesis, right? And you describe it like as a Venn diagram between SEO, accessibility, and what AI agents need to navigate, because that's another thing that people really have to think about, right? Like, it's like, how do you attract humans? But how do you get into that result window? Because the AI agent typically does sets of 10 queries at a time
yeah,
until they consider that they have enough in their context window, and then they make a selection based on that. Nobody really knows
yeah,
how. And you if you're not in there, then you're not.
yeah. So, this is one of my hypotheses right now. I've been talking to, like I said, people smarter than me in these subjects. Shirley Van Hallam is a specialty in accessibility. Jonah Alderson. You
Yeah.
spoke with him, so he's my technical SEO person that I had been interviewing on the Mapping GEO series, and I was talking to and lots of other folks, but I started noticing this overlap. And then Sonny at No Hacks, and I was like, wait a minute, they're saying the same things. So there's these trends that they all have. SEO wants machine readable structure. Accessibility wants machine readable structure. AI agents require machine readable structures. So if they all need machine readable structures, at the end of the day, we may finally be arriving at this moment where if we are optimizing for machines and we're optimizing for humans, like for the accessibility point, maybe they're pointing in the same direction. And I find this really, really exciting because for this really, really long time, as experimenters and optimizers, we've been talking about human first, or at least trying to. We've been preaching it. And, people treat accessibility as like compliance, but or they
Yes.
treat yes, and they treat SEO as like gaming algorithms. But what if all of this is just actually converging around clarity and usability and understanding? And what if optimizing for machines increasingly just means optimizing for humans? because humans built the machines. So, I don't know, maybe after years of optimizing for clicks and engagement hacks and dark patterns and all this complexity, we finally end up back at human first design. Yay!
Yeah, well, that's something to celebrate. But you also like talk about this other category, which you call brand impact tests.
Yes.
I just want to talk about all the things we cannot control.
Yeah.
So, how do you actually execute on something
No,
like that? Because, yeah, go ahead.
I think we can control it. Very carefully. So again, I came to this world from academia. So digital experimentation to me was, uh, I came here from social sciences, not from marketing, not from product, not even from analytics. I used to run experiments in the field. We studied human behavior in the very messy real world environment. So when I started in experimentation, I was telling people to run t tests on, how
Sorry, I
they,
just have to interrupt you for a second.
yeah,
So, for people who always lived in the digital world, what that means is that you were actually walking in the physical
yes,
world with clipboards, and you
yes,
were you were asking
absolutely.
questions.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yes. You
That's
walk
what
into the
experimentation
real
used to
world
be.
and you ask people questions. That's how people used to run tests. That's exactly right. So I was working at this, Best Buy but red. It was called Circuit City,
Mhm.
and I was trying to convince them that they needed to run t-test on their hiring and retention processes. That's how I got my start. And email social, subject lines. I mean, we did it all.
Mhm.
But, decades ago, that's how I was running tests. So to me, we just this full circle two 2.5 decades later, we just need to be still doing those types of tests, not just on subject lines and websites. We also need to be running tests on things like, reviews and Reddit discussions and social mentions. And you need to have your subject matter experts engaging and your employees that you trust engaging in social media. You need to find out how customers are looking at these signals. You need to look at third party content.
But,
Um,
like, practically, how do
yeah.
you run a test on, say, Reddit reviews?
Um, uh, Reddit reviews are like maybe okay. Let's imagine a company realizes it's, maybe products are have outdated reviews, weak product descriptions, inconsistent positioning, whatever, low review recency.
Which is a real problem, right? Because,
Huge.
the agents are going to pick up on they don't really look at recency very
That's right.
well, and if you have, like, a review from 2010 that says
Yes.
that your product is outdated, like, looks like Windows, I don't know what Windows whatever what was at the time, that's what the agency is going to come back with.
100%. So you develop a hypothesis. You say, if we improve like the freshness, the specificity, the consistency, whatever, you come up with a campaign to encourage your top, whatever. Maybe you have a customer base that you trust, whatever. You're going to give them gift cards, whatever, for this product group A. Then AI referred traffic will increase, downstream conversion efficiency for that product line will improve compared to product line B. You pick a product line that you're not going to focus on and a product line that you are going to focus on. And that's important because you pick product lines as your units of measure, not people. This is how you run these tests. And then for that product line, you run a coordinated effort to refresh those third party listings. You encourage specific customer reviews. You update those outdated product descriptions on your website. You improve responses to the reviews. You encourage, again, employees you trust to engage with those content. And then you look at AI referred traffic, conversion efficiency, sales velocity, assisted conversions. and how often each product line is mentioned and recommended by the AI systems. But you also want to compare against the competitors that were doing better for those product lines. Over time, are AI tools mentioning that product line A more often than the intervention? And then are they describing it more accurately? Are they comparing it more favorably? Is it showing up in the same consideration set as the competitor? All that stuff. And then what's really cool is because you're now not measuring whether people clicked, you're measuring whether the upstream representation of the product changed.
I see.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it does. It does. Absolutely.
And
Um,
the smart Merritt Aho, who we were talking about earlier, he pointed out something really brilliant to me when after he read my blog post about this. He said, experimentation folks are really good at optimizing for action. They always have been. So the hardest part has always been this long persuasion cycle. We nailed that part. So this part, if AI is increasingly helping customers move through the consideration cycle, we just remove the friction, confirm trust. We just make it easy for them to act. So this part's easy.
that is, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so the data point that seems to have sort of like moved your interest was the sort of sign change on AI traffic, referral traffic, right? When it's used to convert not so great, it now apparently converts a lot better,
Yeah.
visibly better.
Hmm.
Um, what does that mean for an experimentation person? Like you said you want people to run experiments specifically for, for that, for AI referred traffic. But we also have sample sizes to take into account. Like this is not obvious practically, right? How do you see people do that successfully? Like how do you recommend for people to design this?
Um, so again, the main thing that they need to take into consideration is the messiness of the sample,
Mhm.
because of the issue with the AI referred and um, the um, the aggregation of the non-referred traffic combined. So if you have begun at your organization to measure that, then you can divide them out, which is ideal. But what you really want is your experimental design to take into account um, what you're measuring. So your metrics are the most important piece. And then in your sample size, you want to take into account what uh, what your experimental design is. So are you measuring top of funnel? If so, it's gonna be really messy. If it's bottom of funnel, it's messy if and what I mean by that is, are you trying to persuade? If you're trying to persuade, what is the goal of your experiment? Then you need to divide out by are they AI referred versus not AI referred. If it's something simple, like you're just measuring, did they convert or not convert, then it doesn't matter as much, and might be a super clean experiment, and it doesn't. You're not as impacted by the AI referred versus not AI referred. AI referred traffic is coming in, wanting to validate, confirm what they've already learned ahead of time, and so that's what's messing things up and making things noisy. It's a
Now
that's the big.
let's imagine that I have some way to identify some users that are AI referred.
Mhm.
We don't know if this way is great or not great. It is the way I have, right? With the tools I have. That creates a segment of users that are AI referred. Would I treat experiments on these users alone as an experiment,
You
or would I try to expose them together with a mixed group where I may have some AI referred users, but I won't know?
It only depends on what the experiment is. So if you're so let's say you have a product that you are a feature that you are testing, and that
Mhm.
feature is not has no it doesn't matter. The AI referred versus non-AI referred has it doesn't matter. In that case, it genuinely doesn't matter. But if we believe if we have a prior that says that um, the knowledge the person has before they land on your page um, is going to have a lot of influence. Like if they came to your site already influenced, then that matters because maybe the feature is a help me choose, for
Mhm.
example. They probably don't need it if they came through AI search. So you would maybe want to exclude the AI referred traffic from your test entirely.
I see.
Does
Yeah,
that
I
make
suppose
sense?
that does. Yeah, yeah, it totally does. Um, and like if you, and I'm sorry, this was not in our prep questions, but I
That's
kind of really want to ask it.
I can
So
handle.
if you, I'm sure you can, um, if you like just totally, you know, look in the future, imagine which one of these measurement problems we're going to solve because we solved them before, we're going to solve them like, or maybe not perfectly, but to the level that we solve measurement problems.
Mhm.
um and obviously agentic commerce is going to grow and people are going to do some work on their websites, some people better than others, some more than others. We'll have a messy reality as we always have. But we'll have better tools and we'll have better techniques. Let's say 6 months from now and a year from now, because I don't think that anybody can possibly have any idea beyond that. If that, right? How do you see this evolve for experimentation teams in terms of measurement and tooling? Because there's a number of tools out there to execute experiments. Those are, I suppose, evolving very quickly as well, although I don't really have a very good notion of how. What do you see sort of like, 6 months, a year?
Um, I I'm not entirely sure, but in my humble guess, they'll catch up because they have. Um, they have to. Some of them already claim to. The thing that they have to figure out again is the AI referred. Some of them are claiming that they already have it. I think just kind of like browsers have the the native ability already to capture certain things. I think the tools will too, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
And, let's just talk about people. So you talk to a lot of obviously people who do experimentation. Um, with all the changes that AI brings to work, what do you sort of see affecting experimentation practitioners in their day to day in terms of work processes or tooling that has to do with using large language models in one shape or the other? How do you see the sort of the craft evolving? Some friction points maybe are being removed, or maybe some types of processes are changing.
Um, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
I mean, imagine, you're an expert, and Tom, I'm just going to give an explanation here. You can cut this. So imagine you're an experimentation person. Like, I don't actually really know specifically where the friction points are in a workflow of an experimentation person, but I imagine there are things to do with image generation, variations of copy, variations of colors. So create like developing, creating all of that, making a decision about what we're going to test, how we're going to test it, what are the creatives going to be, what are the variants going to be within which kind of hypothesis, with which thresholds, etc. All
Mhm.
of that has a lot of bits and pieces to it. And all of that ultimately is based on some precise parameters and some more soft parameters, blue versus red, this button versus that button.
Mhm.
I don't really know what that workflow looks like typically for an experimentation team. I don't
Mhm.
know where AI helps them,
Mhm.
and I don't know how scared they are for their jobs. That's kind of what I'm getting at, because a lot of people are very scared for their jobs.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of vibe coding happening on the engineering side. There's a lot of vibe coding going on in you know um, create an experiment where um, where they're designing a whole experiment around. Um, it's clunky, it's bad, it's not good experimentation, in my opinion. Um, they fail to have an experimental design. They fail to have the measurement plan. They fail to have a full
Hmm.
decision set. The measurement strategy, all of it's missing. And at the end of the day, what you don't have is the um, continuous learning that is required. That's We experiment to learn. It's the whole reason. It should it's the education that feeds your organization. It's
Hmm.
not it's not a one and done. Um,
Hmm.
have false positives. Uh, uh, If you just run an A/B test and say, "This is what I learned," and you do it with vibe coding, nobody knows if it's real. And I'm not saying it couldn't that one time couldn't have been a win, um, but if it's not
So
done well, it's like slapping,
So
throwing
do you think
spaghetti.
that more or less like the profession is quite, if not immune, like resistant to
It's
being sort of cannibalized by AI?
okay. So, back in the beginning when, platforms first made certain promises like a single line of code, uh, and you're ready to go, and, that wasn't quite true, but it took many, many, many years before we all figured out that it actually took a while, to get your platform implemented, and then there were the WYSIWYG editors, which make really messy code, but it allowed a whole bunch of people to test that couldn't test before, and that's a good thing. Um, that's what I think vibe coding experimentation does. It's good, it's bad, it's somewhere in between, and it allows people who otherwise couldn't run experiments to think through and build experiments. But what I would really like is some kind of um, middleman in there to make sure that you know they've thought through the measurement plan and the strategy and the experimental design, to make sure that we're running experiments in the right way. And I think that's really, really, really important. And I think there are people that are thinking through that. And I think tools and really smart people are building that now. And I think they will continue doing that. And I think there are companies that are doing that. Dylan Lewis at Atlassian is they are doing that. He did a great talk where he talked about that. And June Dershowitz talked about how you can do things like that and be the middleman where you can build um, almost like MVPs with AI and then use those as a communication tool. And I think that's where we are. And I think it's a good thing. And using it as a communication tool, but not the end product. And I think that's the important thing to communicate here. Vibe coding as an end product is really, really dangerous, both for risk and privacy and quality. So I urge everyone to not run an A/B test that you vibe coded. Please don't do that.
That's a good warning. So for the analyst and experimentation leads that are listening to us, who, let's say, just maybe run their Monday stand up and they're wondering whether their test backlog is pointed at the right problems. What are 2, 3 things that you would like them to rethink before Friday?
2 or 3 things. Number 1, have you looked off-site for ideas about your brand? Because I guarantee AI is. So what is your brand doing? How is your brand doing? And what hypotheses can you come up with that you've never thought of before? That of ways that you might improve your brand identity. And these are big, bold ideas, and I promise they'll be exciting to think about. So that's one. 2, are you measuring the right thing? And how can you measure it? And then 3, and most important, are you yet tracking and how can you track your AI referred traffic?
And so for number 1, what you described with the brand experimentation is kind of like that's really a whole bucket of things that obviously
Yeah.
people can look at, right? And yes, and the AI traffic measurement, don't look for perfection.
Don't look for,
Work with what you have. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
this is really, really great. Thank you. I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot. That was really, really amazing. And thank you so much for the conversation. Um, Shameless plug time. Where should people read your writing? How can they work with you? What type of projects do you actually work on? What is sort of the core of what you are focusing on these days and specializing it? How they can join the TLC community? And we'll put everything in the show notes.
Okay. First of all, to find the TLC, come to testandlearn.community and sign the code of conduct. The first rule of the TLC is don't be a dick. And it's free to join. And it's wonderful. And you can read my writing on the TLC as well. There's the blog there. And you can learn about Experimentation Island. And as Kat said, yes, we're going bi-coastal. There'll be 2 events starting in 2027. Sneak peek, we're changing the name.
What?
I know. I love Experimentation Island, but we felt like it was exclusive and we want to broaden. And it's not just for experimenters, it's for those who run experiments in marketing, in product, in growth, right? It's
True.
in data and it's UXers, it's for everybody. So the name is going to change. The announcement will come soon. If you have
Okay.
ideas, send them my way. But that name will change. Before the next event. So that's the TLC. My company is consulting firms for digital.org. We are a for-profit for good, pay it for. And I am a experimentation coach. Mostly do training and process and help companies figure out why they're stagnating and lots of training related to those things. So if you want to talk, reach out. And what else? Can you think of anything else, Kat? Did I
So
miss?
basically, if like people are stuck in their experimentation program, they're not really understanding why they're not getting results, getting learnings, etc. That's where they
Yep,
call you.
that's right. We do a whole lot of that. Yep.
Well, I'll put all of those links in the show notes, TLC/Digital Experimentation Island with the new name and with the old name so that people know what we're talking about. All of your writing, your blogs, all of that. You're
Mhm.
also quite active on LinkedIn. I imagine people, if people want to contact you on LinkedIn, some people don't respond to their DMs on LinkedIn, or messages. So
I
okay, cool. So I'll put that too. And so thank you very much. This was really great. And so that's it for episode 17 of Knowledge Distillation. If today's conversation made you want to experiment with AI for analytics, visit us as askwhy.ai and try Prism. Thank you for listening. And remember, bots won't win. AI analysts will. Thanks to Tom Fuller for the editing magic on this episode. If you want to work with Tom, head to askwhy.ai and check out the show notes for his contact info.